On Being Self-Made by Robert Fritz. Narrated by Rosalind Fritz. There is an absolutely fascinating biography about Alexander Hamilton by Ron Chernow. Most people don't really know much about Hamilton, who was one of the founding fathers of the United States. The wonderful musical, Hamilton Notwithstanding. Hamilton had come far from what can only be described as humble beginnings. He was the illegitimate son of a shunned woman in the Caribbean in the early 1700s. They were poor, in disgrace, and living in hard circumstances. From these adverse beginnings, one would not have predicted how far in life Hamilton would have travelled. A true genius who, along with James Madison, wrote the Federalist Papers that became the foundation for the US Constitution. Hamilton is what can only be called self-made. But that brings us to an interesting thought. In one way or another, we all need to learn how to be self-made, no matter what our background, advantaged or disadvantaged. Part of the maturation process is to learn how to create ourselves and recreate ourselves as we grow with age and experience. If we read biographies, we find that the protagonist of every book has found a way to create, and then recreate him or herself. Each finds unique ways to do this. Yes, there are teachers, mentors, partners, colleagues, and there are environments and genetic makeup. But, in the end, it is the individual alone that must find a way to forge a life. No one can do it for you. Only you can do it for yourself. This is a solo flight. Not everyone has the advantage of humble beginnings. Folk singer Pete Seeger didn't come from a railroad family as we might have thought. His stepmother was Ruth Crawford Seeger, one of the leading classical composers of the early 20th century. Bob Dylan also had to overcome his roots, a middle-class Midwestern upbringing. Playwright Anton Chekhov had to overcome his own medical career. Miles Davis's father was a dentist. The brilliant poet, Edna St. Vincent Millay, did come from disadvantaged beginnings, and another great poet, Robert Frost, didn't. In the end, it is the individual that matters, not the circumstances. Frost had truly invented himself as the prototypical New Englander. Not bad for someone who grew up in San Francisco until the age of 10. And even if you grow up in the family business, you still need to find your own voice, your own way. All the support you may have around you notwithstanding, you're still on your own. Growing up in the Bach family, the family business being musical composition, didn't mean that you would turn into Johann Sebastian Bach. In fact, only one of them did. No one is born with imperfect circumstances, and those who are advantaged often are disadvantaged in that it takes a large degree of wisdom to not fall prey to the family fortune. A sad phenomenon of our age is the trust fund kid. Too many of them had been sheltered from engaging in life because they had the luxury of waiting to see what developed. Instead of learning how to invent themselves, they were busy trying to find themselves. They would drift from experience to experience, situation to situation, opportunity to opportunity. After 10 or more years doing this, as they entered their 30s, they felt lost to themselves because they hadn't learned how to be self-made. They could only go with the flow, rudderless, letting one thing lead to another without a sense of direction. The trust fund kids that did invent themselves had to overcome inertia. They learned how to make their own lives, even though the circumstances were favourable. The idea of being self-made is vastly different from the idea of finding oneself. The first includes the notion that we are the raw material and that we have editorial control over how we forge the piece. The idea of finding ourselves includes that there is something out there, or in there, that exists in some ideal state, and that our job is searching, exploring, looking, longing, and being open to what may take us there. Self-made leads us to building. Finding ourselves leads us to waiting for it to come. One is an active gesture, the other is passive. It is never too late to take on the active role of being self-made. No matter what the past has been, or how old you are, or what you've done or haven't done, you can begin right now. You are a work in progress, changing, adjusting, self-correcting. You can make mistakes and then learn from them. The goal is not perfection, a rather silly goal if you think about it, but involvement in your own life-building process. The toolbox is your own individual rendition of the creative process. Give up trying to find the right path to take, or finding the right thing to take on, or finding the right way to live. Instead, think about the type of self you want to make. Leave behind the old images of how you should be. Rethink everything. The past doesn't matter. How you've been is only how you have been. Keep what you like, get rid of what you don't like. Begin to build. Don't wait for the right time or circumstances. There aren't any. There never will be any. In the end, we all are self-made. But some of us are more consciously aware of it, and some of us are not. We are advantaged when we understand that we can take an active hand in the self we make, and little by little make ourselves anew.